Hello, world, and welcome to the Innovation Coaching Podcast. My name is Klaus Rostel, and with me today I have Jezevich, which means in Czech, badger. That's a pretty cool name to go by. Jezevich, tell me how I can help.
To be honest, my biggest question, yeah, hi there, everybody. My biggest question, which I really like to solve, is the idea of rebranding. Our company, we have Rowling Heads, can be usable by the world. It's our main question because we realize that our old us is too underrated, too childish, not working good. And we desperately don't want to look like another consultancy, which is blue, tealish, green, and looks like another version of Big Four. So this is now our main goal. I'm trying to solve somehow, and we have lots of doubts. So it's the main question.
I like that. I like that. Let's start with a little bit of groundwork here, because there are some things, whatever the business you're in, but especially if you're in this sort of consultancy, advisory, business development, blah, 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 right? Especially if you're in that space, then there are some things that are very, very important and that most of us get wrong. I sometimes get some of them right, but I'm no expert either. And that is that, first of all, you have to have somebody who has a need
Mhm.
that they accept, either a need or a dream. If you're not selling to a need or a dream, but just to a, oh, it would be nice to have maybe, but not yet, people are rarely ready to buy, right? It's like nobody buys Christmas presents in March, or the very few do. But when it's the 22nd of December and you've forgotten to buy a Christmas present for your son, then you are willing to go quite long lengths to get there. Most of us want to buy dreams or we want to buy needs. And that means first thing is figure out, what you're doing, is it clear that it's helping a need or a dream? Number two, not only is it clear that it's doing it to you, but is it clear to whoever's buying, right? You might come to me and say, Klaus, come with me to this techno music festival in Hungary and it will be amazing for you. And I say, yeah, but Jezevich, why would it be amazing? And you say, it will change how you think about life. And I think, okay, well, that sounds cool, but what does it mean? Right. So it's not enough that you know. There are plenty of experts out there that know that if people just did their thing, it would be better for them. The tricky part is that if people don't understand that, then it doesn't really help. One of the things that for me was a breakthrough in my career is a tip I owe to a friend from a leadership startup I was part of 6 years ago, who said, if you want to sell to the Russians, you better learn how to speak Russian. And of course, she wasn't talking about actual Russians, but saying that if you want to sell to people, then it's not enough that you understand why it would be brilliant. You have to tell them in a language they understand. Find the need or the dream, but in a way that they understand that it actually makes sense. A lot of us fail at either one or two of those. So those are the first two things. The third is, it needs to be understandable why it is the way it is. It's pretty easy if I say to you, hey, I have this course. It's called Learn to Ride a Bike for Adults. And it costs €300 and it's 2 weeks and it's intense and it's 2 hours every day after your normal work. And then you learn how to ride a bike. After 2 weeks, if you're a normal person, you can ride a bike. It's going to cost you €300. We all understand that, right? Some will think, oh, €300 is too expensive. Some will say, okay, that was cheap. Some will say, that sounds great. Or could I learn it in 1 week? But it's understandable that you start with, I would like to learn how to ride a bike. And you end with, I now know how to ride a bike. The tricky thing with a lot of consultancy, coaching is exactly in that problem, is you don't really know what it is you'll get out of it, but it'll be nice. You don't really know when the light switch will flip in your head. You don't really know what it looks like, and you don't know where you are.
Mhm.
And that means that if I go out and try to sell coaching, which I do, then I tell people, well, you should get some coaching from me if you want to fulfill this dream or address this need. And I can't guarantee when it'll work. I can't guarantee how it'll work. I don't know if it's going to be after 5 minutes or after 3 weeks, but there's a pretty good chance something will happen. Oh, and by the way, I don't even know what will happen, but I'm pretty sure something will happen. That's very hard to sell.
Mhm.
It's not impossible. It's very valuable, but it's very, very hard to sell.
Mhm.
If you go out and say, I'm going to teach you how to play Smoke on the Water on a guitar, or I'm going to fix your sink, or I'm going to give you this ice statue, or if you pay, you will get these shoes, it's very easy to see before and after. And it's also easy to understand when money changes hands.
Mhm.
So that's my first thing is with the stuff you're doing, and I'd like you to talk a little bit about it because I know, because we've known each other for years, our audience doesn't know what you do, but I first would like you to share a little bit about what is it, what is that clear transition or that clear change, and is that part of the problem? And do people understand that? Let's start there.
Yep, I'll start there. I think the first important to you to know is that the version of Court of Moravia you know is version 2.0, 3.0, and maybe 4.0.
Mhm.
And now we are in a version 5.0.
Mhm.
So we're doing different things than we did. And what we mostly do, and it's easy to explain it over the table in a meeting room. It's quite hard to somehow imprint it into some branding charade. What we offer to the owner of their business is to transform his company to the state B. So basically, he's in some state A. It doesn't matter what is it,
Mhm.
and he wants to be company in a state B. And we ask him, okay, if we get like 60% there, because this is what is quite easy to do,
Mhm.
how much money do you save or get from your customers? And if there is enough money for us, we have a deal. This is quite easy part because we are easily able to explain what we do.
Mhm.
The hard part is that we are not consultancy agency, which is the first which plop on your mind. You are some kind of interim manager or some consultancy. And we are not. The main difference is that we do the work. So we are more like interim than consultants because we don't just give them good advice. We do the work instead or together with the client's people.
Mhm.
It's the first thing which is different. And the second thing which is different to interim managers, is that we are not only listening to the owner, but listening to the pulse of business. And we using design techniques, how to get at least as much true perspective as possible. Of course, people are lying and they are afraid and they have other hopes and shady businesses, but mostly we get to the core and we first ask and then we change. It's easier in fact. But it's not a typical interim manager who came and bring all the methods and the knowledge he already has and say like, hey, I fixed those 4 companies. I do the same for you.
Mhm.
We have a different approach, the approach from the design. And lots of clients here in our country has already the bad experience with some interim manager or with some consultancy because something gone south and it didn't click. And we know that from our past that the problem just give a client an advice and let his people to do it will basically crash on the problem that at the first place people they don't want to do it. They the same status quo as before. So it's really hard to do it with the current people because current people get you into situation and for the people who get you into situation isn't always too easy to get you out of the situation. So it needs a new perspective, but at the end of the day, you need to buy the people in a company. And that's a difference. Normal interim managers just say, hey, you will behave or you will go. We don't have this luxury, and it's not our style, because on the Czech market, there's like 3 point something percent of unemployment rate, which means basically everyone who is willing to work is working. The rest of the people just have some harder issue than to find the job. So this is our situation. And kind of difficult for us to explain this. When we get to the table and we start to talking about the things, then it's easy.
Aha. So once you're in the room, it's reasonably easy.
Yep,
But before you get in the room, it's very hard.
sure.
Okay. So then let's look at that. Let's look at why that is hard. Let's look at what goes wrong, because I think you're going directly into one of these classic traps, which is, you know, you have something that's great. If you're just in the room, you have something that's great, but it's not easy for them to understand why they should have the meeting. Right? So that means there are a couple of easy solutions and maybe some better ones. Number one easy solution is just be in more meetings. Right? If you can get more meetings and you say you're good in the room, then paying to get more meetings will automatically raise your kind of a sales funnel and raise your number of prospects, that sort of thing, because you say you've got a pretty good hit rate once you're in the room, so let's get you into more rooms. That's one thing. It's like pay to get people into the room. I don't know if you do that right now. Do you pay for like meeting bookers and that sort of thing?
There is no such thing on our market. On the Czech market, there is no such thing like you pay someone to arrange you a meeting. Especially, it doesn't work with a C-level.
Got it.
Even if there is such agency. It's our issue. I will tell you later, but now please continue.
Okay, got it. So but number one option is just get in more meetings.
Okay.
Whatever that looks like. Number two option is make it more tempting for people to want you in the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Usually there's a big difference between what gets people into a meeting and what the details look like.
Mm-hmm.
Often the things that get us excited, whether we are executives with 500 people, or we are solo entrepreneurs, or we're just workers somewhere, is we get excited about something and then we come up with reasons why to go. But you know, I run the College of Extraordinary Experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And when people see a video from there, they say, I don't know what it is, but I want to go.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Because they see a castle, they see smiling people, it looks sort of magical, it looks a bit crazy. People say, oh, this was really amazing. And you still don't know what it is, but you know, okay, either it appeals to you or not. And some people look at it and say, I would hate that event. And that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They would hate that. Just as I see when I'm out selling myself as a keynote speaker, there are people who see the Batman suit and say, I want that guy. They don't know what I'm talking about. They just know they see me in a Batman suit and says, that guy, he's got something. I want to talk to him. And there are also people who say that guy is a crazy idiot. I don't want to have anything to do with him. And that's also okay. So the first is that if you can get them to that meeting, it doesn't have to be by explaining exactly what happens in that meeting, right? Whether you're doing that by, let's say there's a video of 10 clients saying, I didn't understand it, I still don't, but it works, or this was fucking crazy, or these people. Yeah, right? Even if that, and you have no idea what the product is, you have no idea what the service is, you just have 10 testimonials from clients saying, holy shit, this was cool, or really good. Maybe that's going to get some more people inspired, right? There are many ways to get people into a room that are not about explaining what you do.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the second part, is that I don't know what you do right now. I know some of what you did in the earlier Court of Moravia, where you showed like, okay, here's, you take on alternate identities and you jump. I remember you guys did a video many years ago where you stepped into this French Revolution scenario, and whenever people saw it, they're like, wow, that looks so cool. I don't understand it, but it looks so cool, because you had amazing setting and you had some cool role players as actors, and it looked amazing, and people could say, okay, so if I do this, I get to be part of a French Revolutionary evening. I have no idea what it'll do for my company, but it looks fucking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And then they tried to find excuses to sell it to their bosses. Right now, you've developed quite a bit further and you do stuff that actually works, right? That is pretty cool. You're doing business that actually works, but you've maybe lost some of the sexiness along the way. You've maybe lost a little bit of the magic because you're trying to explain what you do, and that comes out as a little bit more dry, right? The explanation you gave, I think I understood it, but it wasn't. So I thought, wow, Where when somebody says, I was at a presentation at the World Experience Summit, and my friend Michonne did a presentation where she said, I'm going to, by using dance, I'm going to demonstrate negotiating through dance. And people were like, I don't know what that is, but I want that. And then they tried it and they loved it because it was different.
Mhm.
And even if they didn't understand how it worked, they wanted to find out. Where there's so many good things out there, and I think you might have slipped a little bit into that are useful and good and make sense and actually make a difference, but they're not exciting.
Mhm.
I think you need to tap into some of that excitement, and I know you know how to do that. You have a long history of producing excitement, and I think maybe Business Peter, who is Business Yezevich, who knows a few more things than he did 10, 15 years ago, needs to look at his old friend through the mirror and say, I know so much more than you did, but maybe I need to remember that you were good at making people feel magical.
Yeah, thanks for that perspective. Maybe I explain. I understand, and the thing is, we've been discussing a lot this how we can put something magical and playful and stay reasonable for the owners of the companies. It's our issue, and we are not sure we can do this, but we tried. Maybe I describe you where we are now, and maybe you got some thoughts about it. The first thing is that if you are in the Czech market and you tell about yourself, look at me, I'm a business consultant, designer, interim, whatever, the lots of people instantly will put you into the box of another random coach.
Mm-hmm.
He's so desperate that he needs to sell himself, herself.
Mm-hmm.
So the most of the business about the change management in our country is a bespoke business. It's like you get a direct reference from someone, which is good,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a game of chance to make this happen. You can help it a bit. The good thing, we already had quite lots of CEOs who are willing to that we give their number to another CEO, and when they call him, he say like, okay, I will tell you what Court of Moravia did for us, and if we are this part, it's usually it works. But we are looking for the way how to wrap up in the experience
Mm-hmm.
our brand, who we are. We've been for years. We are perceived by the market as gamers,
Mm-hmm.
as a game designers, as a creators of the game. It's good, but in a B2B, people don't want to buy the games. Basically, it's lovely, but not enough to break the glass wall. The other thing is we've been pretending, and our brand was based about the pirates
Mm-hmm.
for the reasons we were the free company, and the real life of the pirates, except of the killing and pillaging, was basically about the democracy, about different kind of leadership than in Imperial Navy. And it was something which was really the momentum of all the agility stuff and all those holacratic companies and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like this. So we kind of adapt the identity of the pirates, and it was cool. The market says, hey, this is cool. We just love it. We kind of get used to copywriting and the merchandise around and stuff like this. And it was lovely. When we were doing, let's say, random HR like stuff, building processes for onboarding, for talent management, leadership academies, and stuff like that. But the problem is this business is it's a monkey business, especially on country, because no one gives a fuck about the real education. They basically just want to throw out some workshops or wannabe education, but not really get the people on the different level. It's difficult. Some people want to get to the next level, but most of the people in companies, they just want to. And to be honest, there HR managers are unwilling to do some bold move about this. And when we changed our business model to focus primarily on the CEOs and on change management in companies, basically those guys didn't care about if we are pirates or not. But they still bought us, which is cool. But when we know each other better and we became, let's say, business friends, not just a client-supplier state, over the drink, they usually says like, hey guys, you cool, but don't be pirates. It's kind of silly and childish. And to be honest, sometimes it's really difficult for me to explain the other guys in the company that you are sane and competent to do the work. So we realized like, okay, this is not a cool. It's a cool to have a cards. It's have to have tools. It's okay to use LARP in a process time to time. It's doing the magical level, but how we should bring this to be part of the face of the company, and on the other side, don't look like nerds and geeks. And maybe it's a wrong approach. Maybe now there are enough nerds and geeks out in manager positions because D&D is back on a horse and basically it's cool since Stranger Things. And maybe it's a bad assumption. I don't know. But the owners of the business right now are not so hooked into the idea at the first spot.
I think you hit on something that is a classic issue, and that is that you're doing something that worked and then you change and now it worked less well. But the question is it the thing you were doing that didn't work, or is it the whole idea of the thing? And by that I mean, when they say pirates are a bit childish, don't be pirates, well, maybe they're right. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't stand out, you shouldn't be magical. It means that maybe the sort of magic you're presenting is the wrong one. Right? I can see that if I take from the corporate world where I travel around quite a bit, I'll give you two examples of companies, one a big international one a local Danish one, that really just by naming had people going, we want to work with you. One of them is this couple of people I met some years back. They had a company called Young Consult, and there was these young business guys, and they wrote about young leadership, and they kept getting jobs from people who said, we want to know how young people think. And when I advised them, I said, guys, you are Young Consult, lean into that. When you get on stage, you're 26 and you're 27. When you get on stage and you say, we understand the young people in your workforce, here's how you work with them. You have insane credibility. And you also talk the language of the adults and you look good in suits. And they were like, no, we don't want it to be just the young consultants. We want to be the good consultants. And they ended up closing the business because they did not want to lean into what made them strong. They wanted to lean into it their way. Right? But Young Consult, the moment people heard Young Consult, it's these young guys, and they know how young people work. Instant, okay, I want to work with them.
Okay.
Number two, slightly bigger or a lot bigger and a lot more successful because they lean to that, is the American company called Corporate Rebels.
Yeah.
You know them?
I know them.
Yeah. What did Corporate Rebels do? They said, we exist in the corporate world, but we're tired of the shit. And then they did a lot of stuff that was not necessarily super original, but they did it in a little bit of rebels in a suit packaging, and they've been immensely successful because they've been corporate enough that they could be trusted, and they came from corporate careers. So they weren't people saying, I have a theater major and I live in a commune with 8 other people and I dress like a chicken. Now let me tell you about business. They instead said, I used to be a mid-level manager for 8 years. I got tired of the corporate bullshit. Now I'm a corporate rebel. And even if those two people teach the same, they have vastly different reception. So just as examples, so I think it's not so much that you shouldn't be pirates. Maybe it's that you shouldn't be pirates. That you have something, because if you don't stand out, then you're going to be exactly as you say. Then you're going to be defined by the others. Then you're going to be business consultants and people say, oh, that's just bullshit. And my main focus, right? My main work at the moment is I help people get shit done. And I talk about being an expert at getting shit done. And I just wrote a book on getting shit done. I have talks coming up on getting shit done. There's workshops, there's blah, blah, blah. When I first looked into that a few years ago and discussed, okay, should I do something in the productivity space? Because I'm pretty good at getting stuff done. Right? I have an insane track record with getting stuff done. And then see what my better half said, Klaus, if you call yourself a productivity expert, nobody's going to believe you. Or if they believe you, they're going to think that you're boring and terrible because they think they know what a productivity expert looks like. And that is somebody with spreadsheets and numbers and crushes their soul. And also, you look too scruffy in a suit, and it has to be a boring suit. So then we talked about, okay, what could be, and she coined the term playful productivity. And even that simple change had people go, oh, I want that. Playful productivity. That sounds nice. Productivity? No. That sounds like 996 in a Chinese factory. Playful productivity? That sounds good, right? And where I landed here was this getting shit done, which whenever I tell people that's what I do, they go, ooh, ooh, that's interesting. Ooh, we could use help with that. We want that. They don't know how I do it. They don't know what the modalities are. They don't know necessarily. They're just like, oh, there's something appealing in it. And again, maybe it's not the pirates, but maybe it's something else. And I think that one of the things that I think one of the things I know you are good at, and I'm pretty sure some of your team are good at, is standing out and doing it differently. But maybe the pirates are no longer the pirates to be.
Yeah.
And what you need to find out is either lean into the nerd side and say there are so many nerds out there, D&D is sexy, we do D&D leadership, or transform like a unicorn, or whatever we want to call it, elven transformation, right? Or if you don't do that and you want to kind of accept the words of these other CEOs who say, oh, it's kind of childish, it's kind of silly, then find out, what do they think is sexy? What do they think is hot? What do they think is attractive? Because they all have something. One of the lessons I learned from doing role-playing events for a non-role-playing audience is that I would go to somebody and say, hey, this role-playing thing is amazing. Here's, for example, an event we did at Harry Potter. And then somebody would say, oh, but Harry Potter, I don't want to be Harry Potter. That's childish and that's silly. And I didn't like the movies. And I don't like this role-playing thing. I said, have you seen the TV series Downton Abbey? Oh, I love Downton Abbey. Oh, my favorite dream is to be a Downton Abbey Duchess. Oh, I have this dress dream and blah, blah, blah. And I have a Pinterest. I said, do you want me to show the video from the Downton Abbey thing? And then the same people would minutes afterwards go, oh, shit, when can I go? Where is this? Shut up and take my money. Because I thought that I needed to sell them the methodology. And in reality, I needed to sell them the dream. And for that, I needed to understand what their dream was. And if I said, your dream is probably Harry Potter, and they said, I hate Harry Potter. Okay, do you want to be a rock star? Yes, I want to be a good. Because the thing I knew about, and the thing that we have a shared past in, is creating those dreams. And you don't care if it's French Revolution, or it's pirates, or it's space orcs, or it's 1950s lawyers, or it's Roman gladiators. For you, that's a method, right? And I know you don't have to go that extreme, but for you, the behavior and the design and the story and the framing, all of that is a way to get to where you want to go. And if they want gladiators because they like gladiators, fine, you'll do gladiators, right? If they want to build with Legos, fine, you'll do Lego building. If they want to do Excel spreadsheet dance battle, you'll give them a bloody Excel spreadsheet dance battle. Because that's part of your strength, is you build change. The tricky thing is they don't want, or they want change when they're in the room, but they don't understand that's what they want. But if you can find out what do they like, these people, and then say this is what it is, then you have a much, much bigger chance, I think, of getting them interested. For me, a breakthrough thing as a speaker was finding out that when I started wearing the Batman suit full time to conferences, I found out that there were more people who hired me because of the Batman suit than I thought. I thought they hired me because of my deep expertise. Sure, they do that as well, and they appreciate that. But they also want to put the guy in the Batman suit on stage and have everybody go, what's going on now? And if I then also deliver something good, that helps. But I thought that it was me they were hiring 90% and 10% the Batman suit. And I can see now that there are some people who hire me 50%. I even had a client, a paying client, say, I was surprised at how much I learned. And first I felt, fuck you. And then I felt, okay, well, I'm glad you hired the Batman suit and then you got that professional learning as a bonus, but you weren't expecting that. And it's always in my briefings. They say they always want me to get people, set them a little bit on fire. They want them to think, they want them to be energized. Oh, and if they learn something, that's great.
Okay.
Even though I do have the expertise, right? That's why I sell myself as a little bit of a wild card instead of, hey, I have deep expertise in whatever this is. That's why I'm more believable as a little bit of a wild card adventurer than as a pricing expert, even though I am an actual pricing expert. But people don't think a pricing expert wears a Batman suit, has long hair, and colorful language. And that's why if I wanted to go into being a pricing expert full time, I would have to do like Viking pricing or some sort of thing that had that edge, right?
Yeah.
I think you need to get your edge back, and it shouldn't be pirates if you are going for an audience that doesn't like pirates. Or it should be pirates, and you should say, fuck those guys. There's enough people who love pirates that we are corporate pirates. Court of Moravia, we're corporate pirates.
Yep.
And lean into that. And that'll give you some people, or lean away from that and it'll get you others.
I can hear that. Thanks. Yeah, I can hear that. Two things just to frame it properly. That we thought a lot about corporate rebels, and we try to play this note, and it's definitely not suitable for our business environment. People are maybe too scared or too, yeah, scared the mostly. They're afraid that if you do it to the revolution, it will go south, and they wanted to do it kind of radical, but still slow and steady, which is really stupid for economics, but that's how it is. And the progressive companies, they believe they do it somehow themselves, or they don't have a budget. The company who has the budget, they don't have this eager attitude.
Mm-hmm.
They like it on the wall, but they rather buy a guy who will do it almost traditional way with a add of something spicy and magical. I fully agreed with that, but not too much radical. So corporate rebels is something they will hire for the podium to get them talk and everyone feels inspired, but then they hire Pricewaterhouse because it's traditional and it kind of works. But our idea, and I would like to for a bit discuss this because time's running. Our idea is that, and we don't know if it's cool or not, so tell me your opinion. We've been thinking about what is cool enough to not push us into be someone else than we are. And on the other hand, is sellable, at least it's a playable. We don't know, we want to try it. We decided to be a guild. Let's say in a way of medieval guilds who basically bring the Renaissance and change the basically face of the Europe for the good as well as for the bad. It's connected with some craft, some art, something to know how to do it, which is usually a different knowledge than a typical king or queen has. And there's some mystery as well. And we would love to work more with a mystery. Like there's something behind the closed door and it's closed audience, and play those symbols of mystery and power on the other hand. The reason why we chose the guild is because the gaming guild is quite normal. It is something in a RPG, like a normal term. So even the younger generation will understand. And it symbolizes society or a movement, we trying to avoid to be something like another Freemasons or some conspiracy group or something like this, especially in current times of hard truths and demagogy. So this is kind of tricky part of it, but it's something we want to try. And I wasn't sure. And after what you said, and just by coincidence, said two other guys yesterday on the conference about graphic design, which doesn't make sense why those, but they were talking about similar boldness as you proposed.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I now feel like more, yeah, hell to do this. In worst case scenario, we will rebuild it a year later. But and we still kind of in secrecy because people still don't understand what we are doing till we explain them. And to be honest, the College of Extraordinary Experience is one of another mood board things we have. Like this is the thing, like going through the rabbit hole to our magic world to get them on our side. And we know once we get them to our side, it's we found the same language.
Yes.
What we are looking forward to succeed, but still we are kind of afraid of, is how we deliver them to the entrance to the rabbit hole. Once they go through, then, and I think we are safe and sound. It can collapse, of course, on some ego clash or enough of budget or let's say false promise or false hope from the client side. Okay, but it's collateral damage of every business. But we are looking forward what to put on the door. If it's a gate to Moria, if it's a rabbit hole from Alice, if it's uh, if it's a small wooden door with heavy black, painting and almost invisible in the small alley at the end in the darkness, and you need to knock down the three times, and then you feel like someone will put a knife into your back, and then the warm light, and we invite you. So it's kind of like feeling we want to work with, but not sure if someone else will understand. And we didn't create another pirates in a dark mode, which is stupid.
So I think you're onto something. And I love the idea of guilds, right? Because if we look at medieval Europe or Renaissance Europe, guilds are powerful, guilds are respected, guilds are serious. You go to Antwerp or you go to Prague for that matter, and you will have these old guild halls and you will have this history that you can tap into. And if you say, we take our inspiration from historical business guilds, right? The old idea of master learning and of organization and of philosophy. And the more you tap into something that already exists, the harder it is for people to fight you. If I go out and create a training program based on the works of Plato and Socrates, then if people say that sucks, that method sucks, they're like, okay, so Socrates sucks? Yeah, sure. Good luck with that. Where if I said, well, me and my friend Bob, we were just hanging out, getting drunk, and we invented this method. We call it dialogue learning. Yeah, good luck with that, right? So if there's something you can tap into, something that is respected, something that is sort of understood, something that gives you space to play around in and that gets you excited, then do that. For example, guilds, right? Pirates got you excited. The problem is that some of the people you're trying to reach, they're not that excited about pirates. Maybe some were, but right now that's one of your problems. Maybe it's guilds, right? Maybe it's tapping into that. Maybe it's saying we're not this childish thing that is pirates. We are this very serious and adult and historical thing that is guilds. And we use expressions based on, okay, this is a thing that is from the Czech Weavers Guild from 1423. They had the mantra of Zagorli, and Shagorli means to be dedicated, to be open, to be mindful. And we're now going to teach that. And then people go, oh, we have learned Shagorli from the Weavers Guild. That is cool. Where if you just instead say, we're going to teach you how to be serious about your jobs, how to be on time, and how to be kind to each other. I'm like, okay, well, that sounds okay, random consultant guys. But if you're tapping into something bigger than yourself, something older than yourself, you can get so much I've always said that if I wanted to go full-time as a leadership coach, then I would look at history and I would find as much I could from Vikings, and then I would teach Viking leadership. And I would not teach it in Scandinavia because people would say, yeah, my forefathers were Vikings as well. Yeah, why should I listen to you? I would teach it in parts of the world where they think Vikings are cool. And then I would teach things like this is how we hunt for customers. This is how you row the longboat. This is how you create society. This is why the word of 7 honest men means something in a trial. This is how you, all this sort of thing. And I would find as much as I could that I wanted to teach from history. And then I would take my teachings and I would make them conform to the historical stuff. And then I would package that and I would call it Viking leadership. And then suddenly the fact that I'm this 6 foot tall, slightly overweight, long hair, scruffy beard guy from Denmark is like, holy shit, that's the Viking leadership guy.
Mhm.
I believe that, right? Where if I put on a suit and shave off my hair, then suddenly I'm the cheap looking guy in the scruffy looking suit. That, by the way, isn't really an expensive suit for those who know what to look at. And the James Bond watch is fake, by the way, because I can't afford the real one, which costs $52,000. So if you want to compete, don't compete where the others are strong. Compete where you're strong. And you, my friend, are strong in magic. And you have the advantage that you can take on the magic shape that people find interesting because you are a practitioner of multiple magic disciplines. You don't have to do Viking leadership. You don't have to do guilds. You don't have to do pirates, but you could do either of these. So the guilds thing, check it out, run it past some people, see if it resonates. Do they want that? Do they think, okay, guilds sounds serious and historical and interesting and slightly mystical? Or do they think guilds are for suckers and it should be trade unions, right? So find something that makes them tick, tap into something bigger than yourself. And then I think you'll have a much easier time getting people to that first meeting where you explain, okay, so what does this guild change actually mean?
Mhm. Yep.
Peter, as we know, you have a meeting and I have a meeting, so we're running low on time. That means we're getting to the wrap-up phase, though I'd love to discuss this further with you. But first, I want to thank you for coming to me with this challenge, not just so we could talk about it, which has been fun, but also because it means there are people out there listening in who might get inspired. Thank you for bringing that to not just me, but also to them. Very much appreciated.
Thanks for having me and all the thoughts. It mostly gave me a courage. Somehow, like, you know, um, there's some at least one crazy man in a bad suit who believe the magic still can work. And for me, it's really important to hear it right now. It's more like therapeutic, just hear it. So thank you very much. And I'm really curious if there will be someone else who get enlightened by this. So let the comment after
We'll find
under
out.
this. We'll find out. Yeah.
For now, I want you to do 3 things that I always ask at the end of the podcast. I want you to think of 3 things that you take away from this. It can be things you
Okay.
agree with, it can be things that inspire you, it can be things where you just think I'm an idiot. That's okay. But 3 things you take away with you from this conversation and share them, of course.
Okay. The first, as I said, is a courage. It's the feeling of it will be possible. At least some other person believe in this. This is the main topic of how I wrap it up. But the other thing is tapping into something which is bigger than ourselves is a strong alibi for interaction, which is my favorite buzzword. And the last thing is, which I knew, but it's awesome to remember with a young consult, because I remember I was telling this like 12 years ago when we were young, and we were saying exactly this: don't try to be older, because we are as we are, and for some it can be the reason why they buy us, because they need someone who understands the Gen Z or on Gen Alpha. And I made a point, who are we right now in the core? because now in the stupid middle ages, which are not interesting, you are not old enough to be the old guy with a white beard and Shifu, and you are not young enough to pretend you understand the new generation. And in the heart, we are young and playful and players, but on the first sight, we look like the old chap. But there is still guy in a Batman suit, so somehow it still can work. So this is the first thing I take it as an output.
Thank you. Thank you for those. For all of you listeners out there, thank you for listening in. You've heard Jezevich, and you've heard me, your host, Klaus Hoste. Thank you for listening.